All right, this your man Big Zizzo. Next topic I want to try to touch on again, talk about is the greatest album in hip hop history. You know, I think if you ask anybody from who been listening to rap, so long as I have, they're gonna have one answer. If you ask anybody who think rap began with Tupac and Biggie, they're gonna have another answer. And then you have the younger generation, they have another answer. I'm thinking the younger generation, they probably would say something like the Carter Three or some trash, or they may say "Get Rich or Die Trying." Like I got into a discussion the other day. I never front on Eminem's music. Eminem is good, but I had a guy sitting here, a young guy. He's 19 years old, and he's sitting here telling me that Slim Shady LP was better than Reasonable Doubt. I just chalked that up as ignorance, ignorance of the youth. But anywho, before I say what I think the greatest album is ever, I had to go through that some albums. I'm not numerical. There's some albums I thought were great, and you know, hopefully, what I'm saying, you guys will agree. Okay, album I thought was fantastic was Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim. Up to that point, what I'm saying, you really hadn't heard lyricism like that. Even though I thought Eric B was probably the worst scratcher I have ever heard. But up to that point, you hadn't heard lyrics like that. You know what I'm saying? Rakim was amazing or whatever. I mean, that album that's a no doubt classic. Then you got stuff like License to Ill by the Beastie Boys, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick, Strictly Business, EPMD, 3 Feet High and Rising, De La Soul, Big and Deffer by LL Cool J. Um, the album I thought was really, really well. Back then we bumping tapes too, but that I thought was really, really good was Knowledge is King by Kool Moe Dee. Even though I really wasn't huge on Kool Moe Dee because I was a big LL fan, and he was dissing LL at the time, but I really thought Knowledge is King was really, really good. But also you got Big Daddy Kane. His first two albums were outstanding. Long Live the Kane and It's a Big Daddy Thing, both outstanding. Cool G Rap, Road to the Riches, and Wanted Dead or Alive, classic albums. Um, Follow the Leader was good, but I might be in the minority in this. I actually thought the album that came after it, Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em, was better. I might be in the minority on that, but oh well. DLC No One Can Do It Better, which to me was the best album out of that Ruthless era, even better than Straight Outta Compton to me, because I felt like that's the album where Dre was at his best. Was on No One Can Do It Better. Um, Ice Cube, America's Most Wanted, Death Certificate, both great albums. Um, Notorious Big, his first two albums. Of course, you can't front on those. Um, Nas, Illmatic, of course. I mean, who didn't play Illmatic and didn't know it word for word? You know what I'm saying? 9 songs with the intro. You know what I'm saying? Who didn't know that album word for word? That was like the album, you know what I'm saying, of the 90s probably. Reasonable Doubt, of course, I'm a big J fan. Blueprint was no doubt to me the best album of the last decade. Without saying, you got um, Wu Tang's first album, 36 Chambers. You got Liquid Swords by the Jizza. Of course, Only Built for Cuban Links. Raekwon, that's classic. Mob Deep with the infamous and Hell on Earth. I think Hell on Earth is one of the most underrated albums ever. And for them to follow up a classic like the infamous with an album that was just a shade less, you know, in quality as the one before it, I thought that was amazing. Another album I thought was very underrated was Razzcast Soul on Ice. I still feel like lyrically, line for line, that's the best album I've ever heard. Um, it's just so many. I can just sit up and talk about albums for days, and I will still leave some out, man. But I can even go to the newer 2000 albums like the Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem's, Kanye West, first two albums, College Dropout and Late Registration. Kanye, to me, he just took album making to another level. You know what I'm saying? Where it's not his albums are like actual albums to me. They're not just a collection of singles thrown on an album. You know, it's like Late Registration and College Dropout. They just took album making to another level. Um, of course, Straight Outta Compton. You know, I kind of dissed it a little bit earlier. The Chronic and the Chronic 2001 were both classic to me. Um, Man, it's like I said, it's just so many. I would be talking about albums for days. Queen Latifah's All Hail the Queen, which is probably the best album I've ever heard from a female, in my opinion. Um, Man, I could just Jungle Brothers, Straight Out the Jungle, Black Sheep, a Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. Man, there's so many. But the album that I would unequivocally say is the best I've ever heard is Public Enemy. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back. You know, I and it's funny because I did the same thing with Public Enemy that I did with a Tribe Called Quest, and I forgot to mention the first three Tribe albums. The first three Tribe albums are classics, but I didn't I I didn't hear Public Enemy's first album, Yo Bum Rush the Show, until years after I heard It Takes a Nation of Millions. I did the same thing with the Tribe's first album. I didn't hear People's Instinctive until years after I heard Low End Theory. But anyway, I just remember the first time I heard It Takes a Nation of Millions and how I was blown away by it. Up to that point, I probably would have said that Paid in Full might have been the best album I had heard up to that point. But you know, I mean, when just to hear the production, the Bomb Squad's production, and what Chuck D was, talking. I mean, it was just to me. It's not even close. That's the best album I've ever heard as far as hip hop goes. You know what I'm saying? When you combine all things and how revolutionary it was. You know what I'm saying? Chuck D gave the black man, it gave, hip hop a voice. Whereas, you know what I'm saying, you had, even people around that time, like KRS One, whose first two albums are classics too, who came, you know what I'm saying, and they touched on certain political type topics. But when Chuck rapped about them, it really resonated, and it really penetrated pop culture to the point where, I mean, don't believe the hype. I mean, come on. That became a part of everyday jargon. Everybody was saying don't believe the hype. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just the album is incredible. And even now, you know how some albums people say are dated. That's really a term I really don't like to use as far as hip hop albums. As far as hip hop goes, something being dated, but the album still sounds fresh. And the production on the album, it can't be duplicated to this day. You know what I'm saying? The Bomb Squad, they did an incredible job. And if anybody who listens to hip hop and claim they love hip hop, if you haven't heard It Takes a Nation of Men to Hold Us Back, go back and do your homework. Because you're doing yourself a grave injustice not listening to the best album in the history of hip hop. Word up. Song Rebel Without a Pause, Bring the Noise, Prophets of Rage, Black Still in the Hour of Chaos, Don't Believe the Hype. I mean, it just goes on and on, man. It's just a ridiculous album, man. Caught Can I Get a Witness, Louder Than a Bomb. I mean, it's just a ridiculous album. And like I said, if you haven't heard it, oh well. And there's other albums too, like Mecca and the Soul Brother, P Rock CL Smooth, Gangstar, Daily Operation, or Hard to Earn, or Step in the Arena, whichever one you want to choose. I mean, there's been so many great albums, and but if I had to just choose the one album, let's say I had the one hip hop album I had to listen to the day I die every day. No doubt it takes a nation of millions to hold us back. This is Big Zizzo, aka Big Revolution. I want to give a shout out to them boys at Doc Got It because if you need it, best believe Doc got it. Hit them up, they the best. And peace out.